The galaxy had always listened for Earth. Our voices filled the void. Music, transmissions, laughter, warnings. For centuries, humanity's presence echoed among the stars. And then, one day, silence. No signal, no message. No whisper from the blue planet that had once defied empires and outlasted extinction. Civilizations across the galaxy turned their ears to the void, unsettled. Some celebrated, believing Earth had finally fallen. Others feared the quiet more than war itself, because those who knew humans best understood one truth. Silence was never surrender. It was preparation. And when the silence finally broke, it would not be with words. It would come as fire in the skies, shadows across star systems, and a reckoning no empire could escape. So the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the storm. The only question was, would anyone survive when Earth decided to speak again? Adrian Cole had never known Earth as more than a memory. Born on Titan Station, raised among steel corridors and humming reactors. His idea of home came not from soil beneath his feet, but from stories whispered by old spacers who still remembered the blue planet. They spoke of oceans that stretched beyond the horizon, forests that breathed with the wind, skies that blazed orange at sunset. For Adrian, those tales were more than nostalgia. They were proof that humanity came from something alive, something worth fighting for. But Earth was distant now, locked down, silent. Every colony knew it. No signals had left Sol in a decade. The transmissions, the news reports, the music, the laughter, had ceased one by one until only static remained. At first, the galaxy thought it a failure of technology, then a policy of isolation. But as the years dragged on and Earth offered nothing but silence, fear began to seep across the stars. Adrian felt it too. He served as a reconnaissance officer in the Terran Outer Colony's defense fleet, though most days his duties felt routine. Patrols, inspections, chasing smugglers along the asteroid belts. Humanity had always endured by watching the horizon carefully, never letting the darkness creep in unnoticed. And yet, every time Adrian looked up at the stars, he couldn't shake the unease that the silence from Earth was not absence. It was intention. That morning, Titan Station rotated into dawn. The great bulk of Saturn loomed against the viewport, its rings glinting like shards of glass in the sunlight. Adrian stood at his post, fingers brushing against the cold alloy railing, and wondered, as he often did, what Earth was waiting for. Another quiet shift, his partner muttered, leaning against a console. Almost makes you forget there's a galaxy out there sharpening its knives. Adrian forced a smile. Quiet never lasts. Not for us. The words left his lips with more weight than he intended. Because the galaxy hadn't forgotten humanity. Far from it. Alien empires whispered about the Terrans with equal parts awe and resentment. They remembered the wars humanity had survived, the colonies they had defended against extinction, the inventions that had shifted power balances. And though Earth itself had fallen silent, humanity's children remained scattered across dozens of colonies, still innovating, still resisting, still surviving. The silence had become a mystery, one that frightened even the most arrogant civilizations. A predator that disappears from the forest isn't gone, it's hunting. Adrian didn't know it yet, but his patrol route would soon drag him straight into the truth. The first sign came as a faint pulse across his sensor screen. Not enemy ships, not a smuggler's beacon. Something older, deeper, an encoded signal radiating faintly from Sol's edge, bleeding past the quarantine perimeter no one had dared cross. Picking up something strange, his partner said, eyes narrowing as the console lit up. Adrian leaned in, heart quickening. The transmission was broken, fragmented, yet undeniably human. A single phrase repeated through the static like a whisper from a grave. "We warned them." The message vanished as quickly as it came, leaving the deck eerily quiet. Adrian's pulse hammered in his ears. A warning? To whom? About what? For the first time in years, Earth had spoken, and though the galaxy didn't know it yet, silence was ending. Adrian stared into the stars, his breath fogging against the viewport, and felt the weight of generations press upon him. The ordinary life he had lived, routine patrols, quiet mornings, was already gone. The storm was coming, and when it arrived, humanity's silence would be remembered not as weakness, but as the last warning anyone would ever get. The fleet came like a storm. Hundreds of alien warships, Zareth dreadnoughts, Vadran raiders, Keth assault barges, warped to the sole border in an unprecedented alliance. Normally, these empires despised each other, but fear had united them. They would break the silence of Earth, once and for all, and prove humanity's homeworld was nothing but an abandoned relic. From Titan Station, Adrian Cole watched the holofeed in grim silence. The fleets hung like black steel against the stars, their weapons spooling with energy. The galaxy had chosen arrogance over caution. "They mean to force Earth's hand," Admiral Serrano said, voice tight. "If there is power hidden there, they want to see it. If there isn't, humanity dies." No one in the chamber breathed. The alien armada crossed the final perimeter, and then every human frequency, across every colony, lit at once. The silence ended. It began as a single tone, low, resonant. It vibrated through the bones, through the steel decks, through the very void. Ships across the galaxy heard it simultaneously. A pulse that was not sound, not light, but something deeper. A voice. Adrian staggered as his console erupted with the signal. Across the static, words formed. "You were warned." The alien armada responded with fire. Thousands of plasma lances, rail cannons, and energy beams streaked toward the edge of Sol. The void blazed with fury. No shield could have withstood such power. But the attacks never struck. The moment they crossed the perimeter, they unraveled. Beams scattering into harmless starlight, torpedoes dissolving into vapor. The galaxy's most fearsome weapons simply died. Panic rippled through the alien fleets. They scrambled, repositioned, tried again. Nothing pierced the unseen barrier. And then Earth answered in kind. The darkness of space lit with shapes, impossible shapes. From behind the orbit of Neptune, vast structures emerged. They weren't ships in the conventional sense. They were monuments, forged of black alloy and light, their outlines shifting like living architecture. Entire fleets hidden in silence, waiting. Not built in recent years, these had been sleeping for centuries, perhaps longer. Adrian's breath caught. My God, they were there all along. The monuments opened like blooming flowers, and with their petals came fire. Lances of searing energy tore across the void, moving faster than any weapon ever recorded. Alien cruisers vanished in a blink. Raiders were cut apart mid-turn, sliced like paper in a storm. Whole squadrons disappeared into expanding clouds of molten metal. The galaxy's greatest fleet had become kindling. Adrian clung to the railing, his chest hammering. This wasn't just defense. It was calculated, surgical. Humanity's silence hadn't been absence. It had been preparation. The fleets broke, commanders screaming for retreat. But even fleeing ships found themselves hunted. The monument's weapons bent across impossible angles, cutting down anything that tried to escape, and through it all, the voice returned. Calm, terrible, unstoppable. We warned you. This is your consequence. Yet amid the chaos, one thing became clear. Earth wasn't annihilating blindly. Not every ship was destroyed. Not every empire was erased. The weapons struck with intention, sparing some, obliterating others. Adrian saw the pattern. The monuments weren't just defending Saul, they were judging. Ships that had trespassed too far, fleets that had ignored the silence, they were ended. But those that faltered, retreated, or hesitated found themselves spared, left to flee in terror. It wasn't wrath, it was a message. On Titan Station, alarms blared as debris from shattered fleets scattered across the system. Adrian's console flared again with a private transmission. A face appeared. Human. Not old, not young, its features calm and expressionless, like a figure carved from stone. "Adrian Cole," it said. "You will tell them. The silence was warning. We do not seek conquest, but we will never again be trespassed. The galaxy must learn restraint, or it will learn extinction." Adrian tried to speak, but his voice caught. "Why me? Why now?" The figure tilted its head. "Because you listened, and because the galaxy will not believe in silence. They will only believe in witnesses." The transmission ended. Outside, the last of the alien fleets warped away in panic. The battlefield was silent again, save for drifting wreckage and burning stars. Humanity's homeworld had spoken at last, not with words, not with diplomacy, but with a silence broken by unimaginable power. Adrian sank into his chair, shaking. He understood now. Earth hadn't abandoned its children. Earth hadn't gone dark out of fear. It had withdrawn because it was preparing for something greater, something the galaxy was never meant to provoke. And now, with the monuments awakened and the empires shattered, nothing would ever be the same. The silence was over, but the warning had only just begun. Adrian gazed out at the broken fleets retreating into the void and whispered, barely audible, "If this was their warning, what happens when Earth decides to act?" The silence after battle is never true silence. It carries echoes, the hum of damaged systems, the faint rattle of strained hull plating, the labored breaths of those who survived. For Captain Leora and her crew, it carried something else as well, an awe that could not be spoken aloud. The alien flagship was gone. The fleet that had once blotted out the stars now scattered, retreating in broken formation. And humanity, fragile, underestimated, unwanted in the councils of the galaxy, remained. Leora stood at the viewport, watching the trails of alien ships vanish into folds of warped space. Her reflection looked older somehow, streaked with exhaustion, but behind her eyes burned the quiet fire of a truth she had always believed. Humans did not break. They adapted. They endured. They fought. Across the outpost network, survivors sent signals, ragged, static-filled cheers, the voices of colonists who thought they would never see another sunrise. And though the loss was great, ships gone, comrades fallen, stations torn apart, the victory carried a weight the galaxy could not ignore. Word spread faster than light through comm relays and rumor nets. The humans stood against the Empire, and won. In far-off starports, merchants whispered it in disbelief. On conquered worlds, oppressed peoples whispered it as a prayer. Even in the throne rooms of alien rulers, where arrogance once flowed unchecked, the whispers carried unease. For if humanity, small and new to the interstellar stage, could face the Empire's finest and survive, what else might they accomplish when cornered? Leora moved through the ship's corridors, past crew members tending to wounds and patching hull tears. They met her gaze with something different now, not just loyalty, but reverence. She had gambled everything, not with overwhelming firepower or superior numbers, but with human audacity. She paused in the medbay, where a boy from the colony sat on a cot, clutching a cracked helmet like a sacred relic. His small voice broke through the haze. "Captain, are we safe now?" Leora knelt, her hand resting on his shoulder. Her voice was steady, though her heart ached. "We are safe. For today. But the galaxy just learned what it means to push us too far." The boy nodded, eyes shining. And in that moment, she realized the truth. The battle was not just about survival. It was about identity. Humanity had been seen as wanderers, scavengers, outliers clinging to the edges of star maps. But now, they were something else entirely. Weeks later, when the dead were honored and the broken rebuilt, transmissions arrived. Not threats this time, but requests. A rebel faction from the Empire wanted guidance. A coalition of neutral worlds wanted alliance. Even alien scholars sent messages, curious about the species who could twist desperation into victory. Lyora read them all with a quiet smile. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had lit a beacon. The galaxy, vast and indifferent, now turned its gaze toward Earth's scattered children. And what they saw was dangerous, not because humans sought conquest, but because humans believed. Believed in one another, in hope against hopeless odds, in a future that could be wrestled from the jaws of defeat. One evening, alone in the observation deck, Lyora let herself breathe. The stars stretched endlessly, each one a reminder of both fragility and possibility. She thought of those who had fallen, names she would carry forever. She thought of the boy's question, still echoing, and she whispered into the void, "We're not done. Not by far." The universe had tested them, had tried to break them with overwhelming power. Instead, it had revealed what lay hidden in the human spirit. Not brute strength, not ancient empires, but something rarer, resilience, ingenuity, the refusal to yield. And so the tale of humanity's stand spread. It would be told in hushed voices in alien marketplaces, sung in secret by the enslaved, recorded in the archives of frightened emperors. Not as a story of weapons or strategy alone, but as a story of defiance. Because in the end, it was not just a battle that was won. It was a message etched across the stars. Humanity is here, and humanity will not bow. The question that lingered in every corner of the galaxy was no longer, can they survive? It was, what will they do next? And the universe would never be the same again.